There's been some horrendous deaths in our industry.
Yes,
and quite recently. And the top came in the ring, and it was called Basil, and it went out as Sir Basil. Sir Basil.
Sir Basil.
A politician here would duck the issue.
Yes, I know, but we like direct questions here. That's why I'm asking you the awkward questions. I've been Cammy.
I've been Iona.
And we are both
Fed by Farmers. Hello and welcome to the Fed by Farmers podcast with me, Iona Murray, and meant to be Cammy Wilson, but he has left me solo once again because he has got, well, I actually don't know what he's doing. Maybe shearing, maybe... Right. So this week we are joined by Jim Craig, who is a fourth generation auctioneer and managing director of Craig Wilson Limited. It's a really interesting one. He talks us through the changes that he's seen throughout his lifetime, including starting off with 14 auction marts and going down to 2 and the impact that's had. And he talks through some highlights of his career as well, including selling the record-breaking Tup at £49,000 back in 1991. So yeah, it was a really interesting one. Also need to thank our sponsors, Crystalyx and Animax, for continuing to support the podcast. Let's just get into it. Do it look silly me wearing a jacket?
Maybe it does.
Yeah.
Just go with the pink tee jumper. Nice jacket, but
It is.
yeah, like it.
Is it waterproof?
Has it been tested yet?
Not in the rain.
No.
Fair
You don't
weather
get rain at your
farmer.
Kirk's at the bother.
Yeah, that's
Can
too
test
dry.
Can test it at lambing time. It'll be fine. I know. No, that's fine. This will be in it. We'll just leave this awkward. For anyone listening to the audio, Iona's taking off her jacket now and taking absolute ages. Jim's been here for half an hour already.
More.
There we go.
Right.
And we're here with Mr. Jim Craig of Craig Wilson Limited, Ayr and Newton Stewart Markets. Any other ones that I'm unaware of?
No, we have the 2.
But you used to have a lot more, is that right?
I think 14 was the number we had at one point.
Is that right?
Yeah, every village had a market in it. And, well, there was one in Glasgow.
Right.
And then Co-Winning and Ayr and Bar Hill and Newton Stewart and Pinwhirry, and they were all near a station, which was very interesting because that's how the stock moved in early days.
A train station, you mean?
A train station, yes. They were all at the railhead because you didn't have juggernaut lorries, but you did have lorries that could have trains that could have a whole lot of wagons.
Yes.
And indeed in the old Yow sale catalogues from Ayr Market, it says to prospective buyers to say to the auctioneers in the morning how many wagons they would require at night. Right. And indeed I remember the pens at the side of the old market in Ayr, that where the stock was put in, and from there they were put directly onto the railway wagons.
Incredible. And so there was the old market here, which had been the town.
Yeah.
Of course. And am I right in saying that Kilmarnock Market used to be where there is now a Morrison's, just down from the train station? Is that right?
That would be right.
And that would be one of yours?
Well, that was Wilson's. It was Donald's. It was Donald's Market in Kilmarnock.
And of course it's Craig Wilson Limited.
Yes.
But I take it you were totally separate businesses at one point?
Completely separate, and indeed in competition. I said Donald's in Kilmarnock. Donald's came for sale, and Wilson's took them over. There was a Donald worked for our company in the past, of James Craig Limited, and we weren't invited to tender.
Right, okay.
When the situation arose that they were going to sell out. But no, the Wilsons, they were Wilson and Laird at one time as well in Paisley. But they became Paisley and Kilmarnock. And then the ravages of a foot and mouth brought everybody to their knees. That was 5 years after BSE had struck, which was not good either. Mm-hmm. And about 2001, the Wilsons and ourselves formed a new company called Craig Wilson. Kilmarnock was shut by then. Paisley was closed as well. and we concentrated on Ayr and Newton Stewart.
And
We had Stranraer as well at one point.
and when did Kilmarnock? I feel like I remember it, but maybe I'm just imagining that.
Well, it was last century.
Is that right? That's long ago. Is that right? It's
Yeah.
maybe
It
that's
was in your previous life.
in my previous life. No, I know what it is. It's because of the abattoir.
Yeah.
And I think it's from old stories, probably from people telling me that the market used to be up there, that I feel like I remember it from my youth. But
Yeah.
we obviously had Kilmarnock Abattoir for a while, but that's long since gone as well. And do you know who my uncle is?
No.
Stewart Wilson?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
So
So Neil's your cousin?
Neil is my cousin, yes.
So who's Stuart Wilson in relation to the auction?
Well, I believe he started at Paisley, or started at Kilmarnock maybe. You're saying last century, but that'd be
Stewart Wilson.
in the 70s or 60s, Kilmarnock would still be there.
So is that Wilson?
No.
It's
Sorry, that's
actually
confusing.
not.
Yeah.
Yes, it's nothing to do with Craig Wilson Limited. No, it's my uncle. So my surname
Yes.
is Wilson.
Yes.
It's my uncle. It was an auctioneer. He started.
Okay.
I think he was Kilmarnock, Paisley, certainly Paisley for a while, and then he ended up head auctioneer at Castle Douglas.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I believe. So yeah, and now you mentioned Neil Wilson there, who's been mentioned before in the podcast. He's head of the Institute.
He's
for,
the chief executive of the Institute of Auctioneers and Appraisers in Scotland.
Yeah. What do they actually do?
We're like the Institute of Accountants.
Okay.
We're the Institute of Auctioneers. There's a set of rules that we abide by or should abide by, and there are qualifications. I myself am a fellow of the Institute. Sat my exams many years ago. Managed to get Student of the Year as well.
There we go.
But I wouldn't say that these exams make you an auctioneer. An auctioneer's made by the character inside the person.
So you're a member of the board essentially of this.
I was
IWS?
a member of the council of the Institute for 30 odd years, and
that
have
right?
just recently. I'm a past president. I was made president on the Saturday, and on the Tuesday, I had to be in Whitehall at 10 o'clock in the morning to answer questions about BSc.
Is that right?
So it was a baptism of fire.
Get ready for a successful turnout and choose Crystalyx this grazing season. Spring grass is typically fast-growing and lush. However, it can contain high levels of potassium, which reduces magnesium availability. Crystalyx Cattle Hi-Mag incorporates multiple magnesium sources and is proven through trials at Glasgow University to help maintain normal blood magnesium levels. With 35% sugar and a unique blend of vitamins, minerals and trace elements, Crystalyx Cattle Hi-Mag supports optimal performance at turnout.
I mean, what is your actual journey into the auctioneering side of things? It's obviously a family business,
Yeah.
but from your early days, how did you get into it?
Well, my father said to me in fifth year at school, if I got my exams, I could leave school. So I made blooming sure I got them. And like himself, I had to start as office boy, make the tea for all the landed gentry, etc., and the buyers. I progressed from there up through doing my father prided himself in never asking a man to do anything he hadn't done himself. So he kind of thought I should do the same thing, and I'm very glad I did. And then I was selling the sheep. We call them fat sheep at this time. They're now prime sheep. And one Sunday night, and he just dribbled his tea. He'd had a stroke, all change. And I had to stand up and sell the fat cattle, the prime cattle, which at that time we sold 600 a week.
Okay.
Singly, along with maybe 600 cows a week. And in the fourth week I did it, I sold 753 fat cattle, singly.
Crazy.
So the same had happened to him in his generation. His father took ill and he had to get in there, and it's like in at the deep end, and it was just the way to do it.
Yep.
So I sold the fat cattle from 1983 until just recently.
Yeah, incredible. And how many generations back does this go?
I'm fourth generation.
Right, okay. So how many, what's the actual year? Like, when did the first auction get
Well,
bought or
quite
started?
interesting. I was thinking about that on the way up. The company was incorporated in 1889.
crazy, isn't it?
I have a letter that says to my grandfather, "Dear James Craig, we as your customers, would we now, could you now sell our stock by auction?" And I could never understand this letter. And everything had been done beforehand by private treaty. The stock was gathered in a yard and it was bartered by private treaty.
Okay.
But having watched the telly one night, there was a programme on about Cheshire, I think it was, and a market. And I went and I went on the internet to examine this auction market. And I found out that in the late 1880s, the government of the day changed the law. And the law before that stated that if you sold livestock in the UK by auction, other than on your own premises, you had to pay 5% income tax on anything that you achieved.
Okay.
So nobody did it
No.
because it wasn't advantageous. It was disadvantageous.
Yes.
And this letter came when they repealed the law. And that is when he started to sell by auction.
Okay.
So that's how it came about.
So essentially, you've been in it from the beginning.
Yes,
That's fair to say?
yes,
Since-
I would say.
Aye.
I would say. Most companies, I think they go back maybe further in the 1800s, but by auction, it must have been by private treaty, I rather think, because it was in the nearer the turn of the century that it became advantageous to be an auction market.
And how have you seen it change over the years? You know, from when you started as a boy. Like, what are the big changes? What are the big factors, good or bad?
Good or bad. I thought it was a lovely, romantic place to be. Thoroughly enjoyed being in the environment. I still believe in the philosophy. I've been now employed by the same company for 50. This is my 51st year. Believe in the philosophy. There were lots of little farmers way back then. There are now big farmers. Our system caters for the smaller probably and the many, because we can group to make a large sale out of a lot of bits. Communications now have to be a factor. I mentioned the railways. Well, that was quite laborious, and you had to get to the station and from the station. People have told me they walked the stock to the station to put it on the train to come to the market. But these, the big livestock deckers now, the double deckers, you can put stock in the back of them and go from one end of the country to the other. They are pretty smart in the way they're run. You can when I was at the sheep job, you had an old man with an old lorry with 3 decks. So what the third one folded up from the roof, and you'd had it down if you weren't loaded. Now these double deckers or the 4 deckers for the sheep. They have a system where all the decks come down to the ground, and they can all go up and round about, and it's like a jigsaw, and it's very user friendly, stock friendly. They gobble up the miles down to the areas of big population for the sheep trade. There are comparatively very few sheep consumed in Scotland because of the number of people in the country.
Yeah.
And these deckers get out there to the 74, and they're way down that road. They can go to the south coast of England.
How did you feel when the number of auction marts you were having to let them go, and how did that feel?
At the time, it wasn't nice. It just had to be.
And why was that? Just not demand for them?
It was. There weren't enough at each place to get people to come every time you had a sale. It was rationalization. It's just like everything else in life. You bigger centres here and bigger centres there. We ourselves moved from the town centre out to the countryside. Went from being a tenant to the town to being owner-occupier. If you thought now if where Morrison sits in the town of Ayr saying, we'll put a livestock market in there, there might be an outcry.
That's one thing I like about Newton Stewart.
Yeah,
Is the fact that it is right in the town. I think there's something so nice about that.
There's Newton Stewart's quite a special market.
Yes, it is.
Of course, you would say that, but I think so as well. But I mean, one as Iona has just said, it's right in the centre of the town of Newton Stewart, which is, I mean, it's literally, it's across from a pub. It's next to the petrol station.
It's right there.
Smack bang, but also low roof, old school wooden pens, and I'm trying to think. Lairg would be an example of one that's got that old school feel as well. But there's not many.
No.
Even Dalmalley's, metal pens and that now. There's not many with that same old school feel.
But I remember even, my papa, he sold, like I was saying earlier, at Newton Stewart, and talking about the atmosphere at the Newton Stewart top sale and what it was like. And, it would put up a fight for Dalmalley as well. And obviously that's Newton Stewart top sale's now been moved to Ayr. Was that quite a difficult decision to make?
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And I personally resisted that for years. I was overruled by basically the clientele. And I still regard Newton Stewart as the home of the blackface sale. It is the best rostrum I have ever sold in my life. The funny thing about it is that when you at Newton Stewart, you're here, and you've got folk down there and folk right round to here, and you can see these people. For some reason, you can see the people right round behind you, and when it rained, the roof leaked. Yeah. And everything else was wrong. But it was fantastic atmosphere. And going away back, it used to be below the rostrum, there was the scale that the Avery scale for the livestock to be weighed on coming into the ring, which eventually got taken away. But it was narrower than the passage. And there was a wee pen in front of it, and you knew when there was a surge into that pen of people, you knew to take a breath because there was something coming here.
Yes.
And the crowd were following it. And it was a good sport. It was a great sport.
Have you got one particular sale that sticks out in your mind of selling at?
Well, I sold it up at £49,000. Wow. It was Will Hogg of Camrit, Clockreed. He sold this top. Now I sold that at 49,000, and I was 1991.
Oh my goodness!
And I'd have been a bit of a rookie because when I was at 48, it should have gone to 50. Would do nowadays.
Yes,
the young galloping majors we have in the trade. I mean, I couldn't keep up with them, but there we are.
Yeah.
That was quite a thrill.
Did you know it was going to be something special?
Well, funnily enough, all these big price tops, you usually started them at £100 or £30. And that one I knew it was going to make something. And I was at 10,000, 5,000, but somebody shouted at 10,000. And I went in £1,000 bids to 49,000. And the top came in the ring and it was called Basil. And it went out as Sir Basil. Sir Basil. And the strange thing is, the first time a blackface top made £100,000, I RPI'd it, the retail price index.
Okay.
RPI'd it, £49,000 up.
Compared it?
Yep. And it came to £101,000.
Is that right?
So the top at £100,000,
still
the top at 49,000. The money had the same buying power in both these years.
I take it that was a breed record, if not a sheep record.
The 49,000, it was a breed record at the time.
Yeah.
And at that time, I held that record. My father held the record for a Ayrshire bull, and my grandfather held the record for a Clydesdale horse.
Oh, wow.
So that was a nice wee piece of history that to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Clydesdale horse used to go through by auction?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
right?
well, before
Tractors before.
before tractors,
Aye.
the horses were sold commercially for work.
Aye.
I don't know if you know, in the car park at Ayr Market, there are stanchions in the car and round the office. They're kind of things you reverse into your bent pickup.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't hit one yet.
These are actually out of what we called the repository in the old market, and this is the repose to rest. This is where you put the horses in the repository to rest, and that was just one of the wee bits of history that came to the new market with us. Were these? You'll see that they're round and they've got kind of slot in the one side, and the I would call them bisses, where the horses were divided.
Yep.
It came out. The wood came out from the wall and slipped into the post.
Incredible bit of history, yeah, just to think. And and Ayrshire's, of course, it would all be Ayrshire's.
Yes, well, that's right. There were the transformation with us was that you had the horse sales, the Glasgow horse sales, and then we had the advent of the tractor, and then it was dairy calving heifers that were the major seller for ourselves.
Okay.
So you could have 600 of these in the dairy ring on a Tuesday. Dairy heifer, everybody wanted dairy heifers. And then that waned. We sold the barren cows on a Tuesday, and we sold the prime cattle and prime sheep on a Monday. And at one point, my father said to his co-directors, I want to change the Monday cattle onto the Tuesday. And they said, oh, no. So he said it again, and they said, no. So he did it. and from that, we had to completely alter the premises. And as I said earlier, or maybe I didn't, we averaged about 600 fat cattle and 600 cows a week. We were the biggest centre in Scotland for many years.
Yeah.
Which was, it's gone in stages, and now the main seller's store cattle. I mean, that's where the income is for the auction trade now.
Is that right?
Yeah, I would say.
More so than prime sheep?
I would say.
Okay.
I would say.
Yep.
We've sold 3,959 cattle, store cattle this year so far, to average £1,330.
Yeah. And what is your commission at you?
How much?
Yeah. Well, percentage.
It's too much.
Yeah. That is what everybody listening will say, but
Yeah,
what is actual number?
it's too much.
What is the percentage number? About 3%? No, 1.5 or 3%?
No,
I'll tell you something. I sell most of my fat lambs go through yourselves. Couldn't even tell you what the percentage is. Never even looked at it, I'll be honest. Never looked at it once.
A politician here would duck the issue.
Yes, I know, but we like direct questions here. That's why I'm asking you the awkward questions.
We charge 4.25%.
Okay.
We don't cap anything. If you do well, we do well. Mm-hmm. That's it in a nutshell.
Yep.
I was always told that if stock's not doing well, don't put your charges up. You can't hit a man when he's down.
Yep.
But if folk are doing well, have your say.
Yes.
And that's what we've done. Cheapest isn't best.
Mm-hmm.
We will be one of the dearer in the country. I would like to think we still provide a service.
Yep.
If you phone us or phone me, you can talk to me. I'm not a machine. Mm-hmm. I'm not a computer. I have to take it on the chin if somebody's complaining. So that's where we are, and that's hope where we're going to be.
I think folk will appreciate the honesty. Folk do. Anyone that listens to this podcast with a few people and see when they're honest about things, it works well. And, you know, for me, I mean, part of the main reason for me going to here is it's the closest market.
Well,
You know,
that's right.
they're bloody good, but it's the closest market. Now, most of my store lambs I take up to United because I like the boys up at Stirling too. I've got a great relationship with Peter Wood, the auctioneer up there. Like going up to United Auctions too. I crutched lambs up there for a while. Good relationship there as well. They're good to me the same way that you guys, especially when I was getting started. And something to talk about is market tech or finance. Mm-hmm. Like when I get started, there was yourselves, Lanark as well. I've got to give them credit. They gave me a big help as well. And United Auctions have gave me help. But certainly Ayr was one of the first ones through Drew at the time. given me as a young person getting started in farming with very little to back me up because I had no stock and very little ground. I was trying to get some sheep. It wasn't huge money at the time, but it was a lot to me. But I suppose it more went on I suppose it would help that you would know my father, Andy Wilson, worked at Capington, obviously, and you know that, and took a bit of a chance. But you must have had your fingers burnt. Like, there must be some, I don't want to know any names or anything, but it blows my mind sometimes how the market finance system works. There must have been some bad times.
But that is the beauty of the system, in that we guarantee payment. And we have always guaranteed payment, and have always paid.
And by that you mean the seller is always guaranteed his money?
Yes.
Yeah, even if you don't get yours?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And very rarely is it a farmer or a man selling the livestock that there will be a problem. There are larger companies that can be problems. One of the best things to happen in recent times is direct electronic transfer of funds, because it got to be with a cheque that you get the cheque delivered to you, which took 3 days to get to you, 4 days into the bank, and then another 4 days to clear. By that time, the next week has happened. So the same's happened again. So you're not away for 1 week if it goes. You're away for 2 weeks if it goes. So you basically now know that at 9:05 on the Thursday morning, if Jimmy hasn't put the funds in, the game, get worried.
Okay, so yeah, what you're saying is they would have, back in the day, and you're talking about the big businesses like maybe wholesalers and things like that.
Yeah.
It's limited companies and stuff that can just
Yeah.
fold. They would know they're folding and take advantage of the fact they get away with 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
Let's suggest they might know that they're going to fold and that they could they can get another week out of this, so you end up getting hit double.
It has been known.
Yeah, yeah. But even getting stung once is a stinker. But then, is it what's the old saying? Once bitten, twice shy type thing. Like, how do you make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, very rarely do the companies get resurrected. They go and they disappear. So my office manager and cashier spends most of her time chasing funds. And it's a lady, and she is utterly superb at what she does.
Absolutely.
And I would hate to be without the said person, because she is my girl Friday.
Yep.
She knows what to do and how to do it. But we keep the credit very tight. I get the accounts at the end of the month, and I'll go through them, and I'll go down, and I'll say, right, and we'll go through the list if I've got 2 or 3 questions, and I always get an answer, and I always get a solution, and then we'll rip up the piece of paper, it goes through the shredder, and away we go. And it sounds simple, but it's hands-on, and we some folk think we're maybe mean, but we're just protecting what's ours. The funds are ours, basically. And it's close management on the situation.
I think it has to be, because,
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of money
that's
getting turned over is frightening. I mean, well, it'll be kind of public. What does air market turnover? Is that kind of public? Is that, you can keep that one tight to your chest if you want.
No,
but what would a market like yours
we're
turn
about
over?
£100 million a year now.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, we've had six store cattle sales this year, and 2 of them have grossed over £1 million in throughput.
That's mad.
It's an insane amount of money. It's like you say, you let one little thing slip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's £1 million quid.
Mm-hmm.
It's
There's been some horrendous debts in our industry.
Yes,
and
I've heard
quite
stories.
recently.
Yeah.
There was a period where the slaughtering industry had to up the ante and put stainless steel everywhere, and standards and whatnot, and that kind of weighed out a lot of kind of back street boys, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
The thought was, if they can afford to do that, they can afford to pay me.
Yep.
We don't extend credit other than by arrangement. We just don't. It's not worth it.
And someone made the point to me that, you know, you guys financing someone like me is a safe bet. I'm not just saying that because me, it's a safe bet because I'm buying the stock. I still have the stock, and generally speaking, the stock come back to you in the form of either used at lamb or the store lambs that I finish and put back through you. Whereas the problem is with you going through your wholesalers, etc. The product's slaughtered, butchered, gone.
Gone.
That's right.
It's not coming back into the system.
It's not coming back.
Yeah.
It's not coming back to your market.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So it's a much safer bet to the farmer finance as opposed to these.
But if you don't use discretion by loaning a lot of capital to buy stock to a farmer, you alter the gearing of his business because the bank's he's likely at the limit there in the first instance. So he's putting himself in a position that really would be uncomfortable.
Oh, you mean if you weren't tight on it? If you weren't
Well, what I'm saying
putting
is
the brakes
that
on?
he's at his limit overdraft.
You're saving them from yourself.
So that is where the bank thinks he should be in borrowings. So if we add to that, it's skewing the thing.
Okay. Yes.
Out of he's got added risk.
Yes.
Added risk, and we're non-preferred creditors. That's a non-secured loan, where the bank would have probably security.
Yes.
We don't have security.
No. I always find it absolutely amazing. I mean, it's been a bloody good asset to my business at times.
So what's the situation? So would you go beforehand and say that you would need a lend of the money to buy?
Drew Kennedy's head sheep auctioneer at Craig Wilson Limited. So I would literally just text Drew. I know Drew very well. I would just text.
But at the very beginning, what did you do?
Oh, yeah, but I kind of knew Drew. Yeah, I knew Drew. That I was crutching lambs in it here before I ever had sheep. So I knew the boys fairly well. And I've been going there since I was a wee boy. So I did, well, Drew's only the same age as me, right enough. But yeah, I knew well enough. And I just said, listen, I'd like to buy some sheep. Would you, I'm trying to think what I bought first. It would be maybe in lamb ewes or I can't remember just what it was. Cash cows it would be maybe in the back end. And I'd say, would you give me finance on this and I'll bring the lambs back to you next year or I'll pay it monthly. And it was a case of how much you're looking for. And back then it would only be maybe £4,000.
Still is a substantial amount.
It was a lot of money to me. I mean, nowadays it gets you nothing. I mean, the prices change. Even the 8 years I've been working with sheep, it's more than doubled. But it's like, no bother, that's fine. As long as know where they're going, you're coming back, it's fine. But I do know other people, like, for example, when I bought, Lanark advertised some sheep when I first started, and it was a private sale and I got hogs. I had a reference for that because I didn't know
that's fair enough.
I didn't know anyone at Lanark.
Yeah.
So I dare say the conversation we had in the office, this boy Cammy Wilson's looking for a bit of tick there. What do we think of him? Somebody would speak up and say, aye. You know, we know him or we know his family, that's fine. Whereas Lanark, I didn't know MD, so it's a bit, you take referencing and stuff. And I've recently gave a reference to someone who Air have helped out a young guy trying to get started again. He's came to you guys, myself, and actually John Andrew, who was in the podcast last week. The two of us provided a reference for him, and it's good. And I've 100% he'll pay it back. But like I'm one of these guys. Like if he didn't, and I've spoke for it, I'll pay it.
Yeah.
And that's that's why I wouldn't have it. If I've said he'll pay it and he doesn't, I'll make sure it's paid one way or another. Aye. And that's where the references come in. So.
We very rarely get somebody coming out of the blue saying, I want to buy this and that and can I have credit? They wouldn't get it.
No.
They wouldn't get it. But if a man comes to me and says, I want to board with you, I make up my mind there and then. And that is unique in the modern world. Completely and utterly form-filling nowadays for the likes of that. But I use the knowledge that I have amassed, and it usually works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just does. It's not a great. It's a small community.
Yes.
And they say in Ayrshire, a farmer's most favourite thing is second most favourite thing is to see his neighbour make a mistake, but his most favourite thing is to tell somebody about it.
it's shocking, but it's absolutely bloody true. And it's we suit folks in here if you've done the dirty.
Yeah.
But that said, that it makes farmers love a bit of gossip and
They do love a big gossip.
But it's a
gossip.
community.
But it is still a community.
It's a community.
It's like we'll gossip about your neighbour that, but if something like Beast for These happens or an emergency happens, you phone your
you're
neighbour,
there.
he's there straight
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
It's a funny kind
Yeah,
of
it's
relationship, and there is maybe I'm living in fairy tale land. I still think there is a sort of noble thing in the farming community of a bit of a sense of honour and integrity.
Yeah. There is.
That you don't see in the real world.
That's
Yeah,
right.
It's
I
like
would
everybody's out to do everybody else.
That's right.
Whereas I do feel there is still that old school sense of honour. Like I've so many things, and I've felt full of this with someone, and Jim will ken that story. But I felt full with just going by somebody's word and not having things written down. But so much of it done in farming is just
Word.
just by word.
That's right.
That's
Word
what
and
the
a
rent is.
handshake.
No bother. Word and a handshake. And this is 2024, and the majority of deals just about are done that way.
Which is so nice.
Oh, it is.
It's trust. And obviously there's going to be times you get burned, but the majority, it all works out.
Yeah. Well, you Blackie boys know about it.
I sit here owing to the integrity of my father.
Okay.
And he was a man of his word.
Yep.
He wouldn't have broken his word for anything.
Nope.
And folk knew that.
Yeah.
And it's because of that. Well, I would like to think the same of myself, but that's it. My word is my bond.
Yeah. And absolutely. And it's an important thing in farming and certainly your business.
I was going to say, should we take a wee break to hear from the sponsors?
Yes, let's have a quick word from our sponsors and then we'll be back.
Most foragers don't supply sheep and cattle with enough cobalt, copper, iodine and selenium, critical to digestion, immunity, reproduction and growth. When it comes to supplementation, there's a danger of under or oversupply. But when bolusing with Animax Tracesure, you can be sure every animal has enough for up to 6 months in one single application. Animax, giving what it takes.
Okay, and we're back. Now, something I want to ask you, Jim, you might be offended at me saying this, but there's some real big players out there in the livestock market world. Would you guys have been, and this is such a big farming community here, big dairy community, so like you say, all these 600 cattle, would you have been the biggest at any point, or who was always the biggest market in the country?
We were never the biggest. We would sell probably the most dairy stock because of the policies in the area at the time. One wee disadvantage we do have is that we can only draw on 3 sides of our premises. You can't there's not much grazers of Firth of Clyde out there.
Yes.
Now I take it on board completely and utterly that Central Belt auction companies and border auction companies, they've got the ball at their foot. They're at the junctions of the country, and so be it. It's great for them, and they have developed into specialisation. They have bull sales and they have dairy sales. We're very much a bread and butter kind of company, I would say. We sell, it's a drip every week. We don't have a week where we're selling bulls all week and the rest of the year we're doing nothing. Mm-hmm. We just churn away every week, every year. My life has always been Monday sheep, Tuesday market day, Wednesday Newton Stewart, every second Thursday Ayr, and periodically Newton Stewart. And even if I did retire, my mind would be going that way.
Yep.
And they're not. We're doing fine. Mm-hmm. We're doing fine.
And have you got children that are coming through as well?
My brother's son is outside foreman at the moment, making a very good job of the thing. To get people to work nowadays is not not the easiest thing to do. We have very few staff, and we bring people in to work on a casual basis on a sale day. My own son is a surveyor, a charter surveyor, or rural surveyor in Aberdeenshire, and now in his own right. He has a lovely way of life on North D side, and he'll be going to stay there.
Right, okay.
His wife's a GP in Bankery. He's got 3 lovely children, and no, he won't come back. He has made his, and he was never forced. I was never forced, but it's what I always wanted to do. I never wanted to do anything else. I think I'm the only person that ever knew what they actually wanted to do.
Yeah, but like you say, it's a feeling within you. You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about forcing yourself.
Yeah.
And what about from the Wilson side of things? Is
Well,
that 50-50 the business?
The Wilsons aren't involved nowadays.
Okay.
It's a totally owned company by my brother and I.
Oh, so name only?
Yes.
Right, okay. That's interesting.
And when we thought it disadvantageous to change the name back to what it was, James Craig Limited. Craig Wilson suits fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it'll carry on the way it is. Funnily enough, I've spoken to you before now about campaigns to bring in staff and auctioneering staff. You mentioned Drew Kennedy. I had a casual chat with his dad one day out in the market, which led to his employment.
There we go.
And also when I was in council at the Institute, I was very friendly with the managing director of Dingwall Market, who I still am. And he phoned me one day and he said, I have a boy here that I would take on who wants to be an auctioneer. But he says, he's from your area and I'll teach him what to do, and then he'll want to go home. So I wrote the boy and I said, if you want a job, come and see me. And it's Andrew Hunter Blair.
Right.
So these young auctioneers didn't come through any standard policy. They came through
It's
chance.
It's networking.
You always say that.
It's networking.
You always say
Everything's
Yeah.
networking. And the market's the epicentre of networking and farming.
But the problem I find is that a job for life is not a phenomenon anymore. It's a job until you get fed up with it.
The police being an example. Police used to be, if you were a police officer,
Yeah, that's so true.
that was you till you retired.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think that they do about 5-6 years, then go and do something else. It's just me being one example, I'm maybe an extreme example, but loads of them just do it now.
I was told as an auctioneer that it'll take 5 years for them to learn you, meaning the clientele, and another 5 years for you to learn them. So he says, get 10 years below your belt before you think you know the job. Yeah. But there's a lot of young stars out there that they've learnt it very quickly nowadays. That it's amazing.
Right, okay, you're talking about being too cocky, you mean?
Well, would I ever say anything like that?
That is the problem with the youth today. There's no doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Yep.
But yeah, do you not find though, I suppose you are quite fortunate you're set up. I mean, Andrew, who Hunter Blair that you mentioned there, he'll do most of the work down at Newton Stewart, and obviously Drew does a lot at AR. So you've got two guys that hopefully they'll be there for many years, and you actually don't really need to worry about young people coming through. But do you find that being an issue? One, like we mentioned, the location. You're not Central Belt, and also maybe perhaps the fact you don't have these lots of different random sales that you can blood young auctioneers in. Do you find that a problem?
You say we don't have the special sales, which I alluded to. We live in an area that grows grass. It grows grass better than anything else. And if you grow grass, you got to eat it. And if you eat it, you got to sell your stock. So we are in the centre of the stock. Yeah. That's why the market grew where it is. And it's the most fantastic area It's a grass-growing area of Scotland, I would think,
Oh,
just where we are.
I comment all the time. I think it's one of the best places to farm. And I mean, I'm all over Scotland, whether it's with landward
Yeah.
or scanning or
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's nowhere better than maybe perhaps down Galloway there might be the odd wee
I was going to
patches.
say parts of Ayrshire.
Mulla Galloway and down there perhaps.
But that's
you're in paradise, but it's still
That's right.
It's still like Ayrshire.
Well,
isn't
even
it?
the
I know.
difference from Muirkirk to Ayr.
Yeah, Muirkirk's its own wee
Yes, its own
thing. I don't know how
planet.
you poor farmers get on over there. God love yous. You do so. God love yous. But yeah, I mean, so your big centrepiece, as I touched on now, is the Blackie sale, the Newton Stewart sale, which
Yeah.
is now at Ayr. Newton Stewart's probably one of those ones that many farmers now you service. You talk about Ayr being kind of closed off, you know, and there's nothing to the west. Newton Stewart is even more, the farmers down there are even more remote.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have to cut away across country, try to get to Dumfries or Longtown or something
Yeah.
if they couldn't come to Newton Stewart. But I imagine I'm not the only one to wonder, what is the future of Newton Stewart? You know, is it a strong market? Is it there for good? I mean, I'm not expecting you to tell me it's only a couple of years left, but there must be challenges.
The A75 has Newton Stewart, Castle Douglas, Dumfries,
Of course,
and Lockerbie in a row. Now that is oversupply, I would say. If it wasn't for the cattle sales in October in Newton Stewart, I suppose it would be seen as semi-viable. However, we need to keep that as a satellite to attract the stock past there to Ayr.
Okay.
So I think the two will. I don't see Newton Stewart going anywhere.
Interesting.
In fact, there's quite investment, a lot of investment just now. I'm putting metal fronts in the pens,
Okay.
just the fronts.
But
of
it's
the pens.
practical for cleaning and everything.
Well, actually,
And
the
wear and
wooden
tear.
pens are illegal.
There you go. There you go.
They are just about illegal. But I contend that they're not wood, they're creosote from head to foot. So I would like to see Newton Stewart left as an auction market. Things will progress. And as I say, the transport links nowadays, well, there was Pinworry and Bar Hill, Girvan, they were all between Newton Stewart and Cross Hill. I think there was a market Cross Hill. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's
They
crazy.
were all over the place. But no, Newton Stewart, there are no plans not to have Newton Stewart.
Yeah, a good satellite is actually a clever way. I never thought of it as that.
Aye.
Yeah, because it's big stock country down there. Again, I'm not saying that they don't get arable down there, but it's like you say, it's like grass is the thing in the southwest here.
It's complete oasis down there in Wigtonshire. I mean, you can go down to Whithorn, Isle of Whithorn at this time of year, and the grass is, you've got to wave your way through it.
Yeah,
Although-
better actually not to go. You'll feel,
Yeah.
It just makes you feel bad. And it is that thing again, like Landward looked up the stats for me because we did a piece and we said Ayrshire has the most dairy farmers,
Yes,
but Dumfries and Galloway
have
has
the most dairy
has
cows.
the most cows
Yeah,
because they have these massive units
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably down to staff as well and people coming away from the district because there's not. I mean, folk are getting upset. We mentioned Stranraer quite a lot in here, but it is a tricky part of the world. You know,
It's out on a limb.
it's out on a limb, yeah. In terms of people going off to college and uni and they come up to Glasgow or
Yeah.
these busier
Yeah.
areas and they actually think I quite like it up here. Where there's a
Yeah.
lot more happening.
Yeah.
It's like the islands. It's the same problem in the islands.
Yeah.
It's keeping
Yeah.
people farming over in the islands. It's all pretty difficult. But you're quite a strong team just now at Ayr and Newton Stewart.
yes.
You mentioned, and we have spoken as well about getting more staff in. I did supply you with a staff member, young Marissa.
Oh, yes, sir. Aye.
Who works for me.
Yeah.
Now helps on a Monday.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Although she's stopping for lambing. That was
Yeah.
the agreement. So yeah, she's helping me from lambing from next
Yeah.
week. But yeah, she's a grafter. But are you still looking for staff all the time?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. That is categoric answer.
Yep.
Can I say here, though, we've mentioned Andrew Hunter-Blair and we've mentioned Drew Kennedy. Gavin Patterson,
Yeah. The OG.
he has been there since a boy. Gavin, it was him and I at one point in that company. We did all the selling ourselves, him and I. Gavin has come through a campaign where he's been pretty ill, and all credit to that man that comes about and takes on a daily job and manages the way he does. He is a grafter.
Yeah.
I think he's a Rangers supporter too.
I'll not had that against him. You'll be a Rangers supporter though, you know?
Me?
Aye.
I'm impartial, I think you would say.
I saw the Reggie JC RFC outside.
One thing I was going to ask was, do you ever see any females interested in auctioneering?
Well, I haven't had any experience of female auctioneers.
Mm-hmm.
My office manager is a lady at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You've
named everybody else. Let's just give
Wendy
Wendy
Walker.
Because everybody's terrified of Wendy in Ayrshire. So
Wendy is tremendous in her job. She just
amazing.
is.
Absolutely amazing.
She's and she's known for it.
Well, see, the thing is, when I'm saying I'm asking Drew.
You're actually asking.
Actually asking
Yes,
Wendy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking Drew to ask Wendy
That's
for me.
right.
It's
Yeah.
like, you know. It's
That
like,
is right.
No, I just wonder because I feel like you never, at any market, it's female auctioneers. You just wonder if it's just an industry that females
Well,
But I think that's an interesting thing.
Primrose is it.
Oh, yeah, massive
She's-
with the cattle at,
yeah,
at United
yeah.
Auctions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a huge name there.
Uh-huh.
But she'll be the... I'm trying to think of another one. Maybe that.
There
There will be others, and please
aye.
do let us know in the drop us a message or thing. It's shocking, and we'd like to highlight them. But yeah, no, Primrose is obviously a big name at United Auctions. But I think it is worth, you know, you've touched on Wendy a couple of times there, mentioned her, but in terms of females in auctioneering, it's important to highlight just how important. Yeah, well, you have basically, but like that's an example of a female who is really pulling all the strings, you know, is the centrepiece of the whole operation at Ayr as a female. So it's not like it's this male-dominated
No.
environment. Well, it is in some regards, but if we use Ayr as an example, that is a, you know...
Behind Wendy, there's Lynn and there's Shona and there's Catherine. Catherine does the accounting, bookwork. Shona has been there since a lassie and knows the ins and outs of the whole thing. And Lynn, she just she does a lot of jobs for me that she just knows to go and do. And they're second. They're superb. And I always love to go in the morning and say good morning to them all. I just like to say good morning.
Yep.
And yesterday morning, I looked at Lynn and I said, she says it's 9 months till Christmas. Every 25th of the month.
Is that right?
It's just a wee joke.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Well, it's good to enjoy a nice environment to work in. One thing with Ayr, we'll, you know, it's very much this community feel as well. You know, because it is, let's say, you know, I'm not trying to upset you, but it's a slightly smaller, tighter market.
Yeah.
And everybody knows everybody. You know, people aren't coming from such great distances.
I alluded to that.
Yeah, it's all your neighbours and colleagues, and I love going there.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to say this just now for anyone that doesn't know your market. I'm going to say this, and it's going to upset some folk.
Go for it.
I think it's got the best cafe. I keep saying cafe like I'm some posh guy. It's got the best food stop of all the markets I've been to. I'm just going to say that.
Have you
That's
tried?
going to upset because I love you all, but
No, that is.
that was one of the best things I ever did was the food truck there with
It's
Mary.
so good.
Mary Drummond, yeah, she's a great lassie.
Oh, it's good.
Have you tried the cafe at Stirling that's outside the market?
No. But I always think to myself, why have I not?
Well,
It's a very similar to the
it's
food truck.
lovely. Yeah. It's really nice as well.
Yeah, a nice
Yeah.
option. But yeah, no, so that's one thing I'm going to give a shout out to you for that as well. Where do you see the future of auctioneering going? You know, I mean, you see more and more private sales.
Well, what I was thinking about this today as well, and if you take the 10 best cows and the best bull, you won't get the 10 best calves. Now, if you do, as you do in the pig world, you can just about get 10 pigs that are like wee sausages and they're all the same. But these 10 cattle and the bull, they're not all going to be in the same environment either. There's some going to be in a dairy byre, there's some going to be on a hill, there's some going to be up a hill or down a hill, which creates variation. that being the variation, they need sorted out. And why not just sell them at the same time? It's been tried. There's been other systems tried, the electronic auction and whatnot. Okay for implements. You know, if you've got a JCB sitting there, it's the JCB and you can see what it is. But I look at these, the cameras and the rings, and it's not until you get in among the cattle that you know what they are, or the sheep, I think. And for that reason, I think there's longevity in the system.
Yeah.
Because it needs them, that they're all brought in, and they're all lotted, and it's very interesting to see them in the pens after they're lotted, and then they all go away. And the deal's done, and that's it. And I feel that the audience at a ring is the jury. They're the jury.
Yep.
They are judging the thing. You get a person in the farm, they may give you a good price. How do you know? How do you know the weight of your cattle? I really admire people that can buy cattle all around country and all around fields and all the rest of it. I quite like the in the marketplace where I usually see them, so I can judge them for what they are.
Yeah, the backdrop's always the same.
Yeah. Now, when we moved up the hill from the town, we made the pens 6 inches taller for the reason the Limousin cattle breed had been introduced, and they could go like gazelles over the railings. And it took a while just to refocus on the backdrop being different.
Because you made the pens taller,
yeah.
all the cattle look smaller.
Well, that's right.
That's interesting.
So it took a wee while just to refocus. And well, hopefully we've done that now, and away we go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is a clever point, actually. I never even thought of that. But and you're seeing every cattle the same, whereas you go and see with some, they might be in a mucky whole of a field and look terrible. But the same cow out in a nice dry bit of stubble looks fantastic. Okay, that's a good way to put it as well. No, listen, I think that's interesting, Jim. Well, I mean, we're getting near our time there. That's been an hour, incredibly. One big thing with markets is the factor of you have your certainly at prime sales, you've got your trading standards.
Yeah,
are involved a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have many run-ins with them?
Yes.
I'm not going to say I've seen you getting fiery, but I've seen you getting fiery.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've got what you're saying, but I spoke recently about like one issue I have is like, for example, I had a hog with a terrible stiff leg, but it's not lame in its foot. It's just a horrible stiff leg, and it's like, where do I go with this sheep? Like,
Well-
where do we stand with that? Like,
Well, their answer is you shoot it and have it taken away.
to me, that's madness.
It is, and it's permeating into the abattoirs that they are being more fussy in the abattoir. And the stiff legs is one of the things that are really just now quite electric on.
Right.
I will not condone cruelty to animals,
Oh, absolutely.
personally.
Not. Absolutely.
Just, I wouldn't. And I don't like to see animals abused. But the likes of a sheep on a Monday, if there was an ailment or a sore foot or something of the kind, is it no better to have 6 hours in a lorry and get killed as to go home and get paired and run about the field and let the first shock by the last shock, if you see what I mean?
Yes. It's going to get sorer before it gets better. It's
Well,
going to
that-
get paired and
yes.
opened up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is a fair point. I mean, my argument with the stiff leg, I'd rather take it to the market and get nothing for it for somebody to go, use it for mince or something. Like,
Such a waste.
It is such a waste. I'd rather literally just take it to the market.
The year I started in the company, father built an abattoir over in Heathfield because the council one was closing. And he wanted to preserve the cattle trade in Ayr, so he built the slaughterhouse. We had what you called the casualty wagon, running around the countryside, salvaging animals. And I mean, people would get paid for 3/4 of an animal or half an animal. And as you say, somebody used it.
When food's aplenty, they can have these regulations.
That's right.
when things get tighter, again, they'll come back saying, actually, let's get that wagon on the go again, Jim.
So-
we might see Drew Kennedy out with the casualty wagon yet.
Well, you don't see me.
It's something to think about. But listen, I think that's been fantastic.
Yeah,
Have you
so
any
good.
questions, Iona?
No, I'm happy.
No, that's great. Jim, really appreciate you coming in. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's us for another week. I'm still here myself. I really enjoyed that one with Jim. I think there was moments of nostalgia for me and Cammy. Thinking back to Papa selling at Newton Stewart, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you again to Crystalyx and Animax, and we will both hopefully see you for the next one.